No, welcome to the studio, everybody. I'm your host, Canna, and today we've got something special. Okay, we went online. The holidays are up. We got ourselves a mead kit. We're making mead today. Now we've done some pre-prep. Oh shit! I didn't have the other camera going. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Clippin'? You're just in time, man. The stream has just started and the first blooper's already there. I forgot to turn on the other camera. See, we're going to be doing this as a live stream and as a video because of the fact of what we're doing today. But give me 1 second. I'm going to take a moment for my brain to reboot. We're going to hit record on the other camera and then we're going to go from the top. Man, that was a beginner mistake. Alright, now that we got the other camera recording, welcome everybody, welcome. I'm your host, Canna. This is Canna Creator Studios, and today we have a special show. We got ourselves a mead kit. Yes, oh yes, oh yes. The nectar of the gods, and we are going to make some today. Now, we have done a little bit of pre-prep. However, the water for the yeast is still not exactly cooled down enough to be able to use, okay? So, while we're waiting for that to cool off, we're going to go over a few things, get some basics down, and then go from there. Now, when you first open up that mead kit, first thing you're going to run into is this little blue card. If you're a first-time brewer, hold on to this little blue card. It will save your neck with the company in the long run. If anything shows up broken, if anything shows up missing, you know, you're a first-time brewer, you don't know what you're doing, turn around and give them an email. They got their email on the front of that card. Also, Walmart reviews, small company. I've seen a couple of videos on how this company's brew kit goes. I didn't really want to taint the fact of my first impressions with it, but with the videos that I did watch, there are a few things that I have noticed with the new kits, but we're going to get into those later. For now, that blue card is going to go off into a safe spot. The next thing you're going to run... Hey, real life, welcome. The next thing you're going to run into when you open up that kit is your guide. Now, I've gone over this guide like 3-4 times already, okay? We're only doing the day one portion for this. It's actually quite simple. Yes, hi, real life. I stated hi. But, the day one portion of this is actually quite simple. It's really actually a simple process in general for making mead. There are a few precautions you do want to take. You want to make sure first and foremost that everything that you are using has been washed correctly, that it is nice and clean and as clean as can be. You also need to make sure that your mead is, your equipment that you're using is sanitized. Okay, now inside of this kit, the company sent out their one-step sanitizer mix. Kind of blurry. For the live stream, it might be blurry. We have signal issues for that. We do have the secondary video recording in 1080p, so that way those that are in the live stream or want to catch it without the blurriness, that they'll be able to. But currently, right now, we're in the process of going through the starting stages of making mead. As I was saying, guys, you want to make sure everything is sanitized, okay? The company sent out a packet of sanitizer, one step. You don't have to rinse it out. That, in my opinion, that is a bonus. It makes things so much simpler. But remember, when you turn around and go to sanitize everything that you're using, only use half of this packet. You're going to need half of this for round 2 later on in the process. When it comes time for that, we'll get into that. This is going to be a little bit of a series, sort of, so to speak. So we're going to turn around and do this step by step and stage by stage and bring you guys along for the process. Okay? Now, when it comes to making mead, you're going to need a few things. First thing you're going to need, glass carboy. Something to ferment in. Okay? Now, understand, thanks to the YouTube guidelines and thanks to a lot of US laws, we are not able to turn around and end up fermenting, okay? Well, not correct. We are not able to distill, not without a license. We could technically have gotten a beer kit and gone with that, but that's a lot more intensive, and we didn't really want to go into that much of an intensive run at the start of this, okay? Hello, Emilio. Hello. But understanding, folks, before you start the process, you want to turn around and make sure everything is sanitized, cleaned, you know, make sure that it's good. Now, once you've done that, you're going to want to turn around, pull out some paper towels, and let things dry off. Now, like I said, we got smart. We did a little bit of pre-prep before the show. These have all been pre-sanitized down the list, okay? You're going to want to sanitize your funnel and your 3-piece airlock, okay? You're going to want to sanitize your bung. That has the hole in it. Yes, that is a bung hole. You do not need TP for your bung hole, okay? Just let that be a lesson for you. You do not need TP for your bung hole. You will, however, need a very strong grip with your thumb later on in the process. And finally, at least for the starting steps, the most important thing that you're going to need, most important two things, honestly, is a gallon of fresh water. Make sure it's purified water or spring water. You do not want to use well water, okay? Well water, it's got minerals, it's got metals, it's got bacteriums. You don't want it inside of your mead. If you use well water, you will more than likely come out with vinegar at the end of your process instead of a nice, delicious mead, okay? The other thing you're going to need, other than this gallon of water, is 2.5 pounds of honey, okay? Now, understanding, honey is not cheap. We all know this. The price of honey has been going up pretty much for the last few years, and it only continues to rise. Personally, for me, this 2.5 pounds of honey, it went about, give or take, $15, okay? Now, understand, and this goes back into that thing of we had a few things that we kind of wanted to nitpick with this kit. See, in the videos previously from this company, they used to send a packet of potassium sorbate, okay? That was actually really vital for the fact of back sweetening the fact of the mead, to where you can add more honey to it later on, so that way you can back sweeten it, make it sweeter, and it will not start the fermentation process over again. They don't send that packet anymore. So at the end of this process, instead of actually going through and back sweetening it possibly, we're going to leave this mead as is, the way that it finishes out at the end of the process, because we don't have the stabilizers or the preservatives that are necessary to be able to back sweeten without starting the fermentation again. But ultimately, 2.5 pounds worth of honey, okay? Semi-expensive, but we deal with the prices if we want good meat. Now, first things first, after you've sanitized, after you've made sure everything is clean down the list, you want to grab your glass carboy. Alright, make sure it's glass. You do not want to ferment in plastic. I will repeat myself on that. Make sure it is glass. You do not, do not want to ferment in plastic. Plastic will turn around and cause a massive mess in your fermentation area. It will pop, it will overcarbonate, it will go all over the place, okay? Now that we've got that out of the way, first thing we're going to do, we're going to turn around, we're going to take our funnel, stick that inside of the stopper for a moment, so that way it stays there. But we're going to take our funnel, we're going to drop that in. Now, for this one I'm going to have to stand up a little bit. Next thing's next. Take a half gallon of your water. Only a half of the gallon. Dump it in. Once again, folks, remember, these were all pre-sanitized prior. We're not looking at any possibility of contamination, etc., etc. we're good. And call that about half. Yeah, no, a little bit more. Alright. Give it about that much. Yeah, that's about half. We'll call that good. Okay. Remember, folks, it's an art. It's not a science. You know, there are some pieces of equipment that, truth be told, you know, if you wanted to get really sciencey about it, you could get them. They'd be necessary. But for us, we're just doing a basic batch. We already know from the set of this kit that we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 12% basically. Most people that were brewing out of this kit, well, sorry, fermenting, because we're actually not brewing anything. But most people that were fermenting their mead from this kit were looking at usually 11.7 to 11.9 ABV. Okay? Now, that's relatively decent for any form of wine. Okay? And this is one of the most simple wines that you could ever make. But ultimately, we've got our half gallon of water in. Now, some people would want to use the funnel. Personally, I don't feel like using the funnel. Things can get a little bit messy. It's not going to hurt nothing. But you want to take about a third of your honey and drop it in there. Okay? So we're going to get you going. Drop in about a third. Oh, that golden deliciousness. Alright. We'll cut it about there. That's probably closer to about half, but hey. Well, no. We did pretty good about being about a third. I'm going to recap that for a moment, make sure nothing gets in there. Now that we're done with our funnel, we can use that to hold our airlock for the time being. And now, I'm going to take a little bit of that out. Thankfully, we're not touching the bung with our index finger from this hand, so please forgive me, but honey is expensive after all. And that is going to be delicious when it is done. But we're going to take it. We're going to cap this hole, and we're going to shake the living daylights out of it. Want to keep shaking it until that's all incorporated, until it's all nicely mixed in there, evenly mixed in, evenly incorporated. You don't want any globs, you don't want any chunks. For me on that third, that's looking about good. Okay, so we're going to pull that stopper out. We're going to pull back our honey. We're going to drop in about another third. Do this all over again, the entire process. The golden deliciousness is going in. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Okay, we'll call that about good. Dribble a little bit on the lid, why not? Pop that index, get that bung back in there. Okay, now we're going to shake the living daylights out of it again. We're ultimately going to have to do this probably about 2 more times. Just consider it a shake weight and get your exercise in. It'll build up a little bit of muscle while you're at it. Okay. Yeah, I'd say that's about good. Pop you back out. Oh, we'll clean you up here in a moment. Thankfully, I reserved some of that sanitizer. There's a few reasons why we did. This is one of them. If we need to clean off anything, you want to re-sanitize it before you get it back into this vessel's vicinity in general. But we're going to drop in that last third. Oop. Come on, don't want to make a mess. Get it up. This is probably going to take a moment. Alright, so it looks like the live stream, folks, we have the video running in the background. But it's going to take a moment for this honey to. We want to get every last drop that we can, and actually point now where I think if we were to do that stream and give it just a little bit of water in the bottle to shake up, it'll make it a whole bunch easier to get that last little bit. After all, we're using the same exact water that we're using for the mix in general, so we're fine. It's nice, it's clean, we're good. Just shake that up. Get all that honey broken in. Now we're going to pour that in. Mind you, at this stage, you don't have to worry about splashing, okay? You actually want to get oxygen into this mix. Now, at later points in the fermentation, you really don't want to agitate very much unless you're degassing it. That's a whole different process that we'll get into. I do believe tomorrow, because I believe tomorrow is a degas day for day 2. We'll have nutrients that have to be added in tomorrow. But we're going to get that back on. I might actually have to put this with a rubber band or something to hold that stopper in place. It's wanting to slip. But we'll get that last third of the honey mixed in. Okay. Now, the entire time that we've been doing this, I've had a 1/4 cup of that water over there reserved over in a glass measuring cup we sanitized earlier. We microwaved it for about a minute because we wanted it to get warm. That's where we're starting our bath for our yeast. It feels like it's just about at the point where it's going to be able to take the yeast without killing them, and then they're going to have about a 20-minute hold. Okay? Now, ultimately, because our honey and our water are mixed in, the next stage for us is going to be the day 1 nutrients. Alright? Like I said, there's another pack of nutrients that they have. That's going to be for, I believe it was day 5 and later on in the process. So we're not there yet. But for now, we're going to add this packet into our honey and water. We're going to make a nice little habitat for these yeast to come into when they're ready. Okay? So, in the process, just dump in your entire packet. Just get the nutrient in there, entire thing, you know, give it a pop or two, shake out all the last little bits, clean it up, there you go. Simple enough. Now, pop your bung back on, and repeat it with me. Shake the living daylights out of it. You want to get that all nice and mixed in and incorporated and make it a nice little happy breeding place for all of those yeast. Because those yeast are going in. Shaky, 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 shaky. Okay. Whew. Now, we've got our yeast nutrients, our honey, half a gallon of water, and a decent workout. We've also got, like I said, that 1/4 cup of water that we were putting off to the side. That's been sitting by the side cooling. Use the baby bottle method. I would feel comfortable handing that to an infant. So we're going to take our Lalvin ICV. This one specifically is D47. Okay, it's a wine yeast specific. We're going to take that. We're going to pop it in to our measuring cup. Get every last little one out of there, you know. Get all the yeasties that you can. I'm actually going to cut the opening that I made larger because we're doing measuring cup at this point. I can flick these out down on us. Clean the packet up nicely. We're going to give that a little stir. We're going to get some of them back down into that water. Give them a healthy little stir. And now we're going to set a timer. Now that those are all stirred in, we're going to put on a timer for 20 minutes. And we're going to let them do their thing. So at this point, if you've been following along in the process, we've got what would officially be considered as must, because it's a wine base, okay? Remember, that's our honey, water, and least nutrient at this point. We've gone through the fact of adding in half-gallon, funnel, sanitization, etc., etc. We cleaned up our honey bottle, made sure that's all in there. We've still got a half a gallon left, but we're not ready for that just yet. Okay? When we're ready, well, I should say when these yeast are ready, we're going to finish filling this up with the other half gallon. Those yeast are going to go in. We're going to give it a quick shake, just a good jostle, make sure that they're nicely incorporated, and then we're going to put on our airlock. Now, speaking of the airlock, it comes with a 3-piece airlock. You will notice that there's a fill line here, and you notice it's filled up. Okay, this is not filled up with water. Water is not your friend in fermentation. Water is the enemy. Because these are made to try to stop things like fruit flies from going into your mead, okay? Water, they can swim down, up, and into the tube and climb in if they wanted to. Fill this with the remainder of your sanitizing solution. Me personally, I put a portion of my sanitizing solution off to the side, so that way if this happens to go through and ends up going through and evaporating, I can replace it with more sanitizer solution. This is the only place in this fermentation right now that you want this solution. The rest of these things should all be dried down the list, made sure that they're dry. Yes, it's a no-rinse solution, but you do not want sanitizer in your mead. In your airlock, yes. In your mead, no. No, no, no. Okay? Okay. But for the time being, we can move our must off to the side, because for now, it's not necessary. Seeing as how we're on a time limit hold. We've got about 17 minutes left to go for that. So while we're taking a break with that and letting the yeast do their thing, I think it's time for Canna to go to the moon. Who's with me? For what it's worth, for those on the video portion of this, feel free to fast forward, okay? I'm not going to blame you if you fast forward through the portion that we're at. We've got about 15 or so minutes, nothing better to do. We're going to bullshit here on the live stream for a little bit, but if you guys want to fast forward for the video, that's perfectly fine. I understand. However, for those in the live stream, now we finally have a chance to catch up. I'm sorry. We're doing a different type of thing today. We've done a whole different studio setup. It's been fun. Yo, M&G, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Atra. How's it going? Okay, so
I can breathe now. Cool.
We've gotten our yeast. We've gotten our nutrients. We're on a 20-minute hold. We're going to space. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup first, so that way our area is prepped and ready for the next steps.
Oh, so my timing's not that.
But the cleanup at this point is almost nothing. Because mind you, like we said, we pre-prepped some of this before the show. Yo, hey Brittany, welcome, welcome, welcome. But yeah, we pre-prepped a lot of these before the show, ultimately. So, today's going to be fun. But this mead itself for this kit, it should brew, well, sorry, I keep using that word. We're not brewing anything, we're fermenting. Must remember we're fermenting. But this batch itself should ferment within 30 days. Now, that's not to say that it's going to clear up in 30 days, okay? Usually to clear up, mead's going to take anywhere from 1 to 3 months. Now, when this finishes the fermentation process, this will finish out as, quote-unquote, a semi-dry mead. That means it still should have some of its original sweetness. It should still have those notes that allow it to be in that sweeter category. But remember, a dry mead is like a dry wine. You're not really going to have any sugar. The true principle of this is we want to ferment all that sugar out. We don't want the sugar in it. We want it to actually ferment into alcohol and bring us up to that 11.7 to that 11.9% that most of these kits are fermenting out to. Okay? But if we don't ferment all the sugar, if the yeast don't take every last drop, am I going to complain about it? No. I'm just going to turn around and accept the fact that it fermented at all, and I'm going to drink it and be happy after quite a few more steps to go. Speaking of next steps, yeah, we're finally under the 15-minute timer. For those on the live stream, you're not going to get to see me take my dab. For those on the video, I can't hide my dab. So, if you want to see this dab in all of its glory, you're going to have to go check out the video. But, there we go. Oh, and that honey mix for that must is going so bubbly. I'm going to have to show that here in a moment after my dab, trust and believe, because that is becoming such a happy little breeding ground for them. They're going to be so happy in that jar. However, while we're in this process, I'm going to throw out just a few nitpicks, because, I mean, you guys see this. This whole process is going smooth, okay? We have yet to have a single hiccup so far in this process. But I do have a couple of nitpicks for the company. The YouTube videos I saw that were presenting these kits, okay? They used to come out with a packet of potassium sorbate. It would allow them to be back sweetened. They don't send that packet anymore, apparently. Mine did not show up with one, okay? Now, I've yet to get a hold of the company, and I firmly intend to, because I'm wondering if it was a packaging error or if they just stopped sending them out with them, okay? If it's the latter, I fully understand pricing, small companies, etc., etc. You guys have been around since 2010. Y'all are doing really good with what you've got so far, alright? But with that in mind, hold that thought. With that in mind, I have a nitpick that is very, very specific to this company and kit. Now, you've seen the fact of the kit so far, of what they send out with it. Okay, there's a couple of pieces that we're not using today. It's not time for them in the process. With everything that is included, including the extra nutrients and down the list, alright, you also get your glass racking cane with the tip, alright? Really important for the fact when you go to rack your mead. That will be a lifesaver in the long run. It also comes with the tube and the hose clamp. Now, personally, I took the time the other day to turn around and set it to where that clip, from there to the end of this tube will reach the bottom of that. That's what you want it to do when you go to re-rack and end up refilling, okay? When you go to refill, you want it to be touching the bottom. You don't want to be adding extra air into your mead when you're going to refill it back into the fermentation vessel. That is a no-no. But they do send out the tubing, they do send out the racking cane, and I think that in itself, that is a positive note. Now, I can understand the fact of them not sending out the fact of the little bobbing meter that tells you exactly what the percentage is going to be. That's a little bit pricey. I understand where they're coming from with it. We do have our day 2 and 5 nutrients. They did actually send that out with the kit, so that is still available within it. That is still a good thing. We're going to be using these tomorrow and later on in the process, because those yeast are going to need a little bit of a boost. You know, just like us, when we're running a marathon, we want some water, we want some food, we want something to give us that energy. This is what's going to give them that energy to keep going and turn around and go through this process smoothly and make a really, really fine mead. However, if you notice, when we started up the process of making the must, we used the funnel, the carboy, and the bung that were included, okay? Now, for fermentation, that bung is a necessity. That hole there, that is a necessity, okay? You have to be able to put your airlock on top to be able to keep the nasties out of it. Which, truth is, even though that's not ready for it, I'm going to do that anyway, just for a safe notation, because I really would feel better with that, and yeah, it's probably going to need a rubber band to hold that down. That's just part of the fair process of that. Okay? But, do you notice the one thing that didn't come with the kit? I'm sure a lot of people didn't. Hey, Azid, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, just over the process of that, nobody noticed the one thing that's missing. There's no cap. It's got the carboy, it's got the tubing, it's got the funnel, it's got the racking cane, it's got the nutrients, it's got the yeast, it's got everything but the water, the honey, and a couple of containers to turn around and deal with your sanitizing. But it doesn't have a final cap for after the fermentation is done. When I go to re-rack that for its final racking, I'm either going to have to buy a secondary carboy that comes with a cap, which, no offense meant, I already intend to do, because I've got some other projects that we can do in the same similar process, just without the honey, you know. Think apple juice, think grape juice, think some basic wine, some basic cider, you know. A little bit of progression there with the flavor profiles and such, maybe adding in some cinnamon, some spices down the list, depending on what we can afford. But they're basically forcing it to where you have to bottle it. And I don't know how to feel about that. Because on the company's website, which they really do kind of push for you to go to, ultimately in the long run, that if you want to continue on the journey of your mead making process with them, that inevitably enough, you know, go to the website, pick up the rest of the supplies down the list. Their bottling kit's like $40. Okay? The kit itself was already $55. Okay? Now, hear me clear on that. The kit itself, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the company for it. It's a small company. They've only been around since 2010, 15 years. It's a hard company and a hard business to get into. But the kit itself is $55 and some change prior to tax. Okay? I commend them for shipping through Walmart, because Walmart really does help a lot of small businesses in that aspect of getting their product to the people. Okay, I get where they're coming from with that. I respect them for it. You know, they made a decision for their business and they stuck with it. It worked out for them in the long run, obviously, or we would not be here brewing this kit today. Fermenting this kit today. But how are you going to send an entire kit, a fully prepped kit, to be able to turn around and ferment your mead, but forget to send a 5-cent metal cap? 5 cents, 10 cents. That's all it would be on the inventory for each individual product that you're sending. Like 5 to 10 cents in bulk. 19 at the top, and that's because, well, we got some promotional products in today for the fact of they're like catalogs. we were looking at some things, and I noticed a few things that, yeah, they were kind of similar to what I was already thinking, and yeah, like 19 cents on the top end, man, for a metal cap, to be able to put over that, so that way you could have it sealed and aged in the fermenting vessel that you sent out with it, for which, in my opinion, it is a beautiful jar. They did quite well with it. They really did. I like the fact that they imprinted the fact of their symbol and their company for their branding onto that jar. That looks freaking gorgeous in my opinion. But, branding aside, that is the one place where I can say they honestly, well, the two places where I can say they honestly missed the mark. I feel that they should have kept sending out potassium sorbate with it. That would have made back sweetening able to be done without having to worry about it re-fermenting. Now, if we go to back sweeten it later with the fact of more honey and we add more honey to this, we're going to end up having to turn around and keep an eye on it to watch and make sure that it's not re-fermenting because of the additional sugars that we just put into the brew, if we do that, okay? I think I'm not going to, because of the circumstances being. I don't have a preservative or a safety measure to keep it from doing the fact of re-fermentation, and I'm not sure I want it to re-ferment after it's already gone through its full process. That is what that is, okay? But all things considered, what would I rate this kit if I had to rate it from a 1 to a 10? Mind you, 10, you've done the best job that you can, the most amazing possible outcome for the fact of your product and your company. 1, I will never order from you again, even if it was my last option, and I would literally end up being unalived otherwise. Okay? That is the 1 on my scale. I think as consumers, we all have that scale where it's either you're really good as a company, or we would never order again, even if our life depended on it. Now, I will say that right there, even if I'm, no, that's not where this company's at, okay? They actually do have a lot of respect coming from me over the fact of their product. Truth, it's simple, it's easy to follow, the instructions are written to where pretty much anybody, no matter beginner, experienced, otherwise, that you would be able to turn around and end up going through and actually following this kit and getting a decent fermented mead in 30 days or beyond, because in their bottling section of their guide it does say day 30 or beyond bottling day, so anywhere from 1 to 3 months on average for most meads. Okay, I give them credit where credit's due. They're doing good. I think there's a few spots that they could improve. I think there's a couple of things that they could put into their boxes for their kits that I think would be, even for just a general basic beginner brewer, a really helpful thing. I mean, I'm sorry, a 5-cent cap, man. A 5-cent, 10-cent metal cap. 10 cents on the inventory for a product. Come on. Y'all could have done that in a heartbeat. I think that was a missed opportunity. But I get where you're doing it to try to kind of push for the fact of them to buy the bottling kit for $40. That I think, honestly, when you're only $15 shy of the original kit itself, that's a little overpriced. There are plenty of places I can go to get bottles like that for cheaper than $40. Okay? I get your marketing push. It was a nice attempt. But respectfully, for some consumers like myself, that push failed. Okay? But inevitably, would I suggest it for somebody else? Would I suggest it for somebody that has no clue what they're doing? Has never fermented a batch in their life? It would literally be their first indulgence into the fact of the world of home brewed, home fermented, home, well, we can't do that anymore, they made it illegal, but, you know, distillation used to be a thing. I'm not going to deny it used to be a thing. Your grandpappy's grandpappy was making some good distilled liquor at home, okay? And there wasn't no government telling him he couldn't do it. Today, these days, nowadays, we have that little dilemma. So no distillation. But as long as I'm making less than 100 gallons of wine, or 100 gallons of beer, or cumulative 100 gallons or less between the two, I'm still within the laws and regulations of my state, my area, and the jurisdiction that covers me. Okay? And I want to make it clear, follow your local laws and regulations. Do not break the law over some hooch. And I know that there's a lot of people that just got offended over that wording, but our yeast is ready. But do not break the law for some liquor or wine or down the list. It's not worth it. Follow your local law and regulations. Now, we've got our half gallon. It's settled down a bit. Those nutrients have done their job. They're in the stage where they're ready to receive our yeast. Okay? So, next stages. What do we got to do? We've got our funnel. Pre-sanitized down the list. We put it back onto the sanitized area. It's only touched the bottle. We're good. We're going to take our other half gallon. We're going to drop our half gallon in. Now, I think personally, I'm going to turn around and drop part of this half gallon in, drop in our yeast, and then add in the rest. If nothing more than, I want to leave them a little bit of room, so that way if they decide that they want to act up and get foamy and fizzy and down the list, they've got some space to do that. But at this point, it's been 20 minutes. The yeast are live. They're nice, they're foamy, they're bubbly. And now it's time for them to go into their new home. Now we're going to take a little bit of that water, pour it in, rinse it. Try to get as much of them in there as we can. Just remember to do it carefully because it will foam up ultimately. You will get some fizz like we just did, so we're going to have to hold on for a moment before we add in the last of this. We're going to have to let it settle down just a little bit. Not much. Matter of fact, we can actually save ourselves some hassle in the process.
And this is why you leave headroom.
Welcome to the fact of the kit and their sizing. But yeah, just break down the bubbles a little bit. Pour you in. Alright. Yeast are in. Now, at this point, we want to get that bung on there. They are lively. They're already going at it. We should see bubbling out of there in no time. So we got our airlock set. Now, we're going to make ourselves some labels. Real quick. We're going to label this off as MEAD. Today's date, the 15th.
Yes.
9,
15.
fermentation, which we'll just mark down as PF. We're going to take our label that we just made. You know, nothing fancy, just a little bit of masking tape. Take that. Get that off there without it turning around and trying to hurt itself. We're going to take that label that we just made, we're going to stick it onto our mead. So that way we know what we're working with. And then each step along the way, until the end of this process, we're going to turn around and we're going to add in the back of the label strip with what we did. So that way we know where we're at in the process. Brittany, only 1 jar today. We're only doing 1 gallon of mead. But we finally have our must together. We have our airlock on. I'm going to give you a little jiggle. Just to get you a little bit closer to the center. We've got our label done. Now, at this point in time, oh no. At this point in time, we have a no-no. We're going to have to wait for this to actually settle down a bit, in all reality, because we still have water. There's still water to go. Well now. Well, it's not one of our shows if something doesn't go wrong, right? Let's see. Can I... Wait a minute, your liquid level. I'll be right back. Oh, no. How did that... Well, that is not a happy moment for me. Not by any means. But you know what? It has as much in there as it's going to allow. The yeast are getting happy. I'm going to take the bung and get the airlock. We're going to set the airlock into the bottle for now, so that way that's safe. We're going to give that just a little jiggle. Just a little jiggle to get them worked in. Okay. Well, folks, we've done all we can do. I mean, I might be able to get that. We've done as good of a mix as we can get. Now it's time we'll pop our airlock on. Make sure we don't get it too far. And we need to mark down what time it is, so we know our 24-hour timer. 3:50. Alright, so we're gonna let them do what they do for the next 24 hours. They're going to go into a nice dark spot where they should be happy and enjoy life and start doing their thing. And within the next couple of days, we should, if we've done everything correctly and gotten a little bit lucky, because as you saw, we had a few iffy moments. I mean, it's about that much water left. You know, figure that one out. Oh wait, that's the honey density. That's that 2.5 pounds worth of honey that we were never going to get this water in there. So please understand, when they say a gallon of water, you're going to have some left over. Obviously. This line right here is proof of it. See, personally, I think that line should have been down here. Personally. But we tried following their directions as close as we could. This is what we got to before we couldn't push any more in. So, I think whoever tested their kit, I don't know, maybe they changed the amount that their jug can hold a little bit, maybe tried to downsize it a little bit so that way somebody didn't notice. But this right here just goes to prove. And actually, I'll almost guarantee you that if I poured that into the honey bottle, it would fill it. I want to see. I'm curious now. I'm actually curious. Just how much of this is displacement due to the honey? Practically every single drop. That nearly filled the honey jar all the way back up to the top. Because remember, when we started, it was filled up to the very top, up here at the top brim. So, you're not going to use the entire gallon of honey in the process. This is obvious and clear to that. But we are technically, by rights, done with everything that we need to do for day one. We've made our must. We've turned around, we've added our yeast, we've added our nutrients, we've brought it up to a very full and happy jar, hopefully. Those yeast were kicking like a freaking racehorse when they were inside of the measuring cup. Started out with everything sanitized through and through. And now, all we've got left is that little bit of cleanup. So, we're going to take the 2 minutes, if that it's going to take for us to clean up the process of this. We're going to put away our guide for the time being. Yeah, we were using it as backup just in case we forgot where we were at. But honestly, the process is so simple. It's really, once you read it a couple of times just to lock in it, it's so simple you're not going to forget how to do it, at least not the first time around. But we can move that out of the way now. Move that. Move that. Move that. That needs to go there. That needs to go there. That needs to go to there. Rest will just go to there for now. We'll clean up the set. I'm going to go put this away in its fermentation area so that way it can go do its thing for the next 24 hours. And we'll be back. Spot. Alright, cool dark place. I'll set an alarm for tomorrow after the stream's over. Because I'm not going in and setting an alarm while the stream's running. That would be dumb. It'd probably break it. Yes, thank you guys. I know. That was a long 3 months. And let's get real. If I'm being honest, this is the first time, for what it's worth, that I'm honestly on live and it feels like we're actually doing it properly. If that makes any sense. I mean, I know that we have moments where the stream breaks, it gets fuzzy, okay? We finally have an area where we can actually put up the camera and actually have it look like a functioning studio in the process instead of just a desk, you know? I honestly like the new setup. I think it looks good, personally. You know, personal decors. What are you going to do? But honestly, it's a lot more fleshed out in my opinion. And I think that we might just keep going with this moving forward. But I also know that we have day 2 steps for tomorrow. Degassing and adding the nutrients. That's going to be really fun. Because those nutrients tend to fizz. And well, they didn't really call off the fact that you might want to hold off part of that gallon. So here we are. But we'll cross that threshold when we get there. But yeah, this is going to be fun. 30 days. 30 days and that'll be ready to rack out. It almost makes me kind of wish that I would have followed some of the other MEAD guys by example and just said screw it and, well, whacked all of the nutrient in. But I'm trying to follow their process and their guide as closely as I can. Fair enough. But, I guess that draws a close enough end to the round of day 1 for our fermentation process. For those of you on the video, this is where we're going to cut off and we're going to call it a day. We'll come back with day 2 in 24-ish hours. Okay? And we'll turn around and keep the live stream going for y'all so that way we can actually do some real catch up and I'm not having to worry about the fact of doing the whole dual camera thing. No offense, guys. I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's just the dual camera process makes it really, really difficult to decide which screen to pay attention to at which point. Okay? Ultimately, the stream will keep going, but this video right here, it's coming to an end, and we'll catch y'all on day 2. How do I stop? There we go. Yeah, I forgot how to stop the other camera for a moment. I admit it. Alright. For those that are here, okay, I'm going to guess that we're down to Izzy, Brittany, and maybe clip in real life for Emilio. But for those that are here, welcome. Y'all got a preview into the new episode for the channel that has yet to be released. Y'all technically got the behind the scenes content. Okay? What? It's true. They got the behind the scenes.
Fair. I'm just live studio.
That was right. Live studio is always behind the scenes. We all know it.
Hi, guys.
But for those that are here in the live stream, okay, we have a very, very, very special thing. And for those that were in the video, they're not going to get to see it. They had to have tuned in live to get to see this one. Okay? We got a package in the mail today. And for what it's worth, we know that Ma is over there, and she's in New Mexico, and we know that things are tough, and things have been difficult, and that we've all had our issues with each other down the list, etc., etc., etc. We've literally been at each other's throats at some days. But reality's sake is, it's a moment of she was still thinking of us, and she was still thinking of me. We got sent a box. A very long box. This is the empty side of the box. No. But this is the gift that was received in the mail today. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous pipe. And in due proper fashion for the studio, we'd be damned if we could go one show without christening in a new piece. So, here's to you guys, here's to the channel, and here's to the future of the studio. It makes you feel like Gandalf when it has dabs on top of it. what it's worth,
Still jelly.
I honestly believe that the chat's probably broken. I think the chat and all of the internal functions of the stream died probably about 20 minutes ago, give or take. But I'm hoping that through all of it, y'all were able to follow along, and that we made it to where if you do buy the kit, mind you, the company is Craft Brew. Okay, hey Ma. No, it's not. Alright, awesome. Well, the company itself is Craft Brew. Yes, you missed the fermentation for the starting phases. Matter of fact, I'll even be nice. Give me a moment. I'll set that one where it won't fall. Be right back. We have our base. The yeasts are in. It's technically by rights first day baby mead, ultimately. But yes, the yeasts are in, the nutrients are in, so on and so forth. I'm going to go put her back in the dark so that way she can turn around and ferment proper. Only get away with it for so long it starts. And then it's just got to stay. See now, for those that don't know, by the way, when we shook up that mead earlier, when we were making it into the fact of must, when the shaking was occurring, it was not simply to mix in the honey, okay? Yes, part of it was to dissolve that honey into the water, okay? The other part of that was the fact that we needed to add air, ultimately. Hey, welcome Jigsaw, welcome. Izzy, been listening, awesome. But yeah, when we made the must earlier, the reason we shook it up was not just to incorporate that honey into the water, which, yeah, that was a thing that we really needed to do, especially if we want to make wine out of it. We also needed to turn around and add in oxygen. All of that air that got pushed around inside of there, that is essential for the fact of our fermentation process. Without that, there's a possibility it could stall, which would just cause us to turn around and stop prior to the alcohol content that we really want inside of it. And yes, YouTube, today is fermentation day. I know that most of my viewers, or I would hope most of my viewers, are all over the age of 21 and know how to follow their local laws and guidelines. But for any children in the mix, wrong show. Hit the other button, man. Sorry. However, ultimately, how much faith do I have in this kit? I have more faith in the kit than I have in myself towards the process. Okay? If only because of the fact that right now my head is screaming to pour off part of that. Right here, right now, pour it off. But I'm not going to. I'm going to wait for tomorrow. Okay? Tomorrow I will pull off a very small portion of that to be able to give myself a little bit more headroom inside of that bottle. Today is all about those yeast and them being happy. Okay? Tomorrow we'll fix that. Today, we let them live and breed and make their colony and enjoy their lives. Tomorrow, we'll deal with the rest. But personally, after what has been, honestly in my opinion, what can only be described as the most back and forth week on getting this all together. Okay? I mean, we started out originally with the fact that we had a store run. We were supposed to pick up water. Well, Canna forgot the water. Yeah, real smart of me. Well, then we went through 3 days of the back and forth of, well, can we get a ride into town to go get the water? Well, that ride didn't come. And then, of all things, yesterday, the well goes down because a squirrel bites the freaking line. Oh, by the way, come to find out, that squirrel was not removed by the electric company. That squirrel finally just fell and the power came back on to the well. So our water is fine. For those of us that were thinking about donating, trying to turn around and pull a water fund together, whatever, we appreciate the sentiment, but it really isn't necessary. I know Teddy tried to push it a little bit, but even then, it wasn't necessary. We appreciate it, but it doesn't mean that it was needing to be done. But ultimately, we're good. We've got water back on the property. We're fine. Okay? So, with that being said, it's time to enjoy the new pipe that we've got from Mama Canna and actually take a puff or two and get ourselves to the next level of being elevated. Oh. And before anyone asks, the finest of tobacco products with just a little bit of some fine, shall we say, oils of some beautiful tomato plants. But, seeing as how we're done with fermentation for today, how's everyone else's day going? Good day, bad day, indifferent day, how's the day? Me personally, I'm a little bit comedically entertained because we have a moderator that's still watching a camera that hasn't been recording for the last 20 minutes.
It's easy to rub my eyes. Besides, I like watching the smoke in the 4K.
It's only 1080p at 60 frames, but okay.
Whatever the fuck, that's better than your camera over there.
Well, anything's better than my camera over here. I have signal issues with the camera over here.
Gotta give you just a little bit of crap. Oh, hi, Blitz.
Yeah, I know. He's been in the middle between getting stoned and enjoying the mead process with the rest of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of, that golden-haired lovable doggo, apparently YouTube, in and of itself, as the entity that it is, had something to say about my post earlier. Okay? And there's a reason why I say it. I had a post set up, the same exact one that went out earlier, but it was not a photo of Blitz. When I was looking at the preview, when I set up that preview, it was a shot of me with the mead kit in front of me in the preview shot. Well, YouTube went spazoid and we had to try that post 5 times. Well, somewhere between the 4th and the 5th time, because the 4th one was when I decided, okay, maybe the photo of Blitz will work, it's something that was already loaded onto the fact of the system for YouTube, maybe that'll make it easier. It still didn't work that time. We tried the 5th time. I used the one that was a shot of me with the mead kit. By the time it posted, though the preview shot was of me with the mead kit, Blitz, my lovable doggo, somehow managed to influence the algorithm so much that it chose my dog over me. He got the glamour shot. I don't know how the system did it. I don't know how it triggered. I don't know what happened internally for that to do what it did. But my dog got the glamour shot. And you know what? Kudos to him, because he hates the camera, but the way that we have the fact of the studio set up right now, if he gets bored, and decides that he wants to come up here, or he gets to the point that he just wants to be comfy up in the sun, and he comes and sits on this chair, that camera is set at the perfect position to capture him. Okay? Even this one is, technically. If I left it running, it would capture him all the way through the day. But that's a thought process for a different episode, or a different stream altogether. Though, I will say, a week for MEAD, we have gone through probably the most hellish week that we have ever gone through, all because of 2 gallons of water. 1 gallon that we ended up using earlier in the process. Mind you, like we said, we did a few things behind the scenes to where they were done prior. One of those was the fact that we took the 2nd gallon of water and we mixed it up for the fact of half of that packet of sanitizer. Okay? Mind you, same jugs, gallon water, ultimately. Inevitably enough, we have basically an entire gallon of sanitizer. I really don't know what the hell to do with it other than maybe use it for the dishes. I mean, it's not going to hurt them. Set them in there for 60 seconds, they'll be sanitized. Seems like an upside. Cool little benefit of it. And we're going to have to do this again later on when we go to rack it. So that way we can turn around and end up having the fact of our secondary container sanitized, as well as all of our equipment. So on that one, I think we'll turn around and go through the full process of that. This one, we wanted to rush it a little bit. I admit it. I was a little bit impatient with it because of the fact that it's been 5-7 days worth of just everything going wrong in the process of trying to make this mead. Okay? The one thing that went right and on time was the fact that it arrived on schedule. Only like an hour late, but unbroken. However, to the FedEx company, I have one little criticism. Do you realize how much time all of those double backs that you have your drivers doing is costing them? How much time it really costs them on their run? How inefficient it truly is? Because straight up, I respect James, the driver that delivered it, okay? James got this kit to me in one piece. He got that glass bottle to me in one piece. The only thing that actually holds that glass bottle in place in this box, okay, that needs to go there. The only thing that holds it in place in this box is this hole. Alright, this hole right here. Just to hold the neck. That means the body and the rest of it is free floating in the process. Okay? Now, for him to get this here in one piece, that means that with all of the rocks and the dirt and down the list and everything else, he had to drive carefully enough to get it here in one piece. I respect him for that. I do. But that man was over an hour late on the delivery. Because that man had to double back over 10 times. Count them. 10. Going out to a portion and coming back. So I'll consider each one of those an individual. 10 times. 5 different double backs. 5 different break-offs from the branches. Costing that man over an hour on his delivery time. I can just imagine the stress he was under when he realized that in his brain he had to back into the driveway of the property. Because he didn't realize he could just pull his truck all the way around and through. Because there's enough space to do so in that circle. But I respect him for having the thought that, you know, maybe the truck might get stuck in the area for the driveway, or maybe I might accidentally turn around and hit a rock and bump it just right and break this glass, or whatever down the list, you know. I get it. But they cost that man an hour on his delivery time. I don't get it. It has been an adventure just to get that thing into a bottle. But I really do think that tomorrow I'm going to pull just the smallest of portions off of it after these have had time to settle in. Because I'm going to need that space, or else it's going to foam over. And I know it. That's on me, though. That's not on the company. I should have been watching the level. Once it got up to a certain point, I should have stopped. I stopped paying attention. That's on me.
Instructions or guidelines. Not rules.
It's not a science, it's an art.
Exactly. So why
And
are
I'm
you
only
treating it
saying that
way?
to be able to give myself some leniency for the fuck-ups that happen in between. Because as I'm not going to say a beginning brewer, but a relatively novice brewer, because it's really something that I haven't gotten my hands into that often. You know, this isn't the first time I've done a batch of mead, but I've never been the one physically doing it myself. I've been the one helping. So, call it an apprentice trying to turn around and do what the master was teaching them. Mistakes were made.
I would call that being a novice.
Yeah, probably closer to a novice.
Yeah.
But, inevitably, no, it's not the first batch of mead that I've ever been a part of. Yes, it is the first one that I'm fermenting on my own.
Novice.
Though I will say, it is kind of a fun experience. It's different. In a way, it's almost the same as making bread. Per se, you know, you've got those steps that you got to follow. You've got that recipe that you got to follow. You got the guidelines that you got to follow, or else you're not going to get bread. See, for mead, the equivalent of that is you've got your steps and guidelines that you got to follow. You've got your steps that you have to follow to be able to avoid bacteria, or you're going to get vinegar. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You'll get vinegar. That is not what we want. And or you'll get mold. That is not what we want. If we see anything fuzzy in that jar's gone. It's scratched. Bye-bye. Because we won't drink it. I won't allow someone to drink it at that point. I'll throw it out myself. Will it possibly look funky? Well, that depends on what the yeast decide to do and how they decide to stack up and down the list. You know, there's a reason that when you're doing any form of fermentation, you want to kind of turn around and give yourself a little bit of room to breathe, because there's going to end up being that cake of yeast at the bottom. It's going to look funky. It's going to look weird. There's going to be days where it's possibly going to look like a lava lamp. But it's doing what it's supposed to do. As long as it doesn't mold or go pop all over the place, or get too excited and go up through the airlock and make a mess, you know, you're doing good. It's really the simplest fermentation there is. I mean, technically, we could do the same process we just did with apple juice. Mind you, 100% pure apple juice, no preservatives. That's really hard to do, but no preservatives. You know, if you're going to get a preservative, vitamin C, at most. Vitamin C. Okay? Okay.
Citrusy as fuck, though.
It's fine. I would rather have the citrus in apple juice for the fact of a quote-unquote cider than I would the fact of anything else.
That's fair.
And those preservatives, if they're thrown in there, and if you have them in there for the juice that you're using when you start, it's going to fail your fermentation. It's going to stall it. It's going to make it turn around and end up going slower. It's going to possibly turn around and make it not work properly. You should get like an 11 to 13 to 14%. You're only going to get maybe like a 6 or a 7 if it stalls out at the right timing. Otherwise, you're just going to get mold or vinegar. You don't want to play the games with it.
Ew.
Yeah. Truth be told, if it turns into vinegar, I'm going to be really annoyed. I mean, I have done everything that I can in this process to avoid any form of bacteria, including putting up with what I can only describe as a self-described fly conspiracy. Because over the last 2 days, the flies went fucking haywire over the entirety of the house and across the fucking entirety of the porch. They went freaking haywire and took over everything. I was sitting here for 3 hours as I was trying to fight them, watching them fly across the camera in clear view of the shot, okay? I swear they were starting to do it intentionally if I didn't know any better, but I'm not a freaking crazy schizophrenic person that's going to turn around and dictate that they were trying to come after me, okay? But they did a good job at fucking up the recording schedule. We were supposed to do this yesterday. I couldn't do it yesterday with as many flies were around.
You were pretty stoned.
Fly season sucks. But yeah, you don't want to play with the fact of the bacteriums. If you get bacteriums in your mead, you're going to get vinegar, or worse. You don't want it to smell like rotten eggs. Make sure everything that you have is clean. Make sure everything you have is sanitized. Make sure you've done the proper sanitation. That's all we can really say to that.
Do the work.
If you don't do the work, you're not going to get the product that you want. But honestly, I don't think they could have made their kit any simpler to follow. I really don't. I am still sort of disappointed that they didn't have the potassium sorbate. You know, I was really looking forward to be able to actually back sweeten it and make it into a dessert wine if I wanted to. Don't have it. They didn't send it. They no longer have it in the kit. Be prepared for that if you buy the kit from the presumption of the videos that they have on YouTube. Okay? It's not there anymore. I still think that the cap is a missed opportunity. It would have only cost them like 10, 20 cents. I think they cheaped out. But otherwise, from a company out of Florida that's only been around since 2010, it really is truly a good system for the beginner. Okay? However, and really, truth be told, I wasn't actually planning on this. Okay? This was not my plan originally. That makes a really good segue. It really does. Just hold on a moment, folks. Give me a sec. Because this entire week that we have been waiting for this mead kit and all of the components and all of the ingredients and everything to fall into place, Canna had his notebook. Canna's been working on his notebook. They sent a sticker with theirs. I'm not sure if that's going to clarify out far enough for people to see it. But their little moniker of Get Buzzed, with their company name, Craft Brew, they're out of Orlando, Florida. They've been doing this since 2010. I'd say, at that rate, 15-year-old company, they're doing good. At least in my opinion. Okay? But because they're in Orlando, Florida, that, my dear friends, loyal colleagues, and curious viewers, is almost a perfect segue for the other project that we were working on over the entirety of last week. Remember the last show when we said that we were going to do the equivalent of a Florida Man episode? Well, let's just call that the Good Florida Man. And let's call that a really fucking peckish rooster that is about to turn into dinner if it's not careful. I'm sorry for their interruptions. There's nothing I can really do about it. Even if I shut the window, you're still going to hear them.
Oh, and it's red. Of course
Yeah,
it's
of
red.
course. Red, go away. But, nonetheless...
Oh no, they're gonna need something for that.
No, I know. Nonetheless... Inevitably, we pulled together 5 separate cases. Okay? These are not in any form of true order for the way that they were thrown together. Okay? there are things that lined up in this plan of this that I didn't intend on, but that lined up quite well. And in the end, it will draw a major question. One simple question for the state of Florida. But we're not there yet. However,
Dude.
it is hard not to smile through that, because if I don't smile through that, I'm going to want to strangle that bird. I am not going to deny that. I can't. I want to strangle the bird. But I'm not going to.
Red's kind of
I'm better than that. I know Red's an asshole. It's a known fact. But, I guess, all in all, we're going to get into it. And we're going to go through it, because I promised it would be done on a live stream. So, we've got case number 5. Mr. Timothy Schultz. Now, all of these cases are from this year, minus one. One of them was last year, but it resolved this year. Okay. Timothy Schultz, on a Monday, in late 2025, in late month of May, at a convenience store, ended up being spotted. Now, why was this man spotted? Because he was acting erratically. Come to find out, the erraticness of Mr. Schultz that day was due to the fact that he had taken in copious, and I mean copious amounts of methamphetamines. Okay? This man was spun dumb in the middle of the convenience store. Well, apparently he attracted enough attention that a few members of the community turned around and spoke up to the factory management at the store, and management called the police in. Okay? You would think that would be the end of the story. The police come in and arrest the man, right? Oh, not today. Not today. Because for whatever reason, albeit completely unknown to me as to why he would do this, Mr. Schultz decided it was a good idea that he was going to jump into an alligator-infested pond to go take a swim. Now, I don't know about you, but I know personally, me myself, I don't care what state I'm in, you're not going to get me to go in there with them gators. No, I'm smarter than that, thank you very much. Even in my worst days, you will not catch me in a gator-infested pond. But Mr. Schultz decided it was a great idea. Okay. Blitz. That wasn't cool, man. Nearly broke my phone, bud. Alright, that's reconnected. Child, you cannot murder the show. No, that is not how that works. Now, back on track. Ultimately, while swimming in this pond, Mr. Schultz ended up getting bit by an alligator. Okay? This gator bit his arm. Now, I don't know the size of the alligator, but I'm guessing it must have been a smaller one. Smaller on the scale anyway. Because apparently this did not faze him in the slightest. Not one bit. He literally just shook it off. And immediately decides that he's going to go and get a neighbor's garden shears. Okay? So I'm guessing that this alligator-infested pond at this point, that this was somewhere within the backyard region of the area. Which, for some reason... Okay, just for some reason, being in Florida, that does not surprise me. That this man literally jumped into an alligator-infested pond or swamp area in his local district because he was just dumb enough to go over the back fence that probably plenty of people have stated that that's not a good idea. Alright? But ultimately, he grabbed these garden shears. He tried to turn around and end up putting them to a neighbor's car. I don't know what this neighbor did to him. I don't know what he said to piss him off, But apparently he thought that just seeing his car was not enough. He was going to take shears to it. Okay? Finally, somebody in the neighborhood decided to call the county sheriffs. Deputies did arrive. Okay? Now, when they arrived, you would think that these deputies would just take the man in. Right? No. That's not how it went down. Because Timothy, like an idiot, and I will state, in my opinion, like an idiot, decided to rush the cops and their squad cars. I don't know if he had the garden shears on him when he did, but inevitably enough, he started trying to fight them for their weapons. Ultimately, they tried tasing him. It didn't work. Mind you, he was on enough that apparently the electric chair's worth of electricity did nothing for him. Okay? It wasn't able to stop him. He was still apparently a threat to these deputies. And they ended up, rhetorically, sadly, having to unalive him. Okay? And I hate having to turn around and censor myself. I don't feel that that's how that sentence should have been said. But thank you, YouTube, for making me have to say it that way. But he ended up at the point where he was unalived because they felt that he was a necessary enough threat that he was going to inflict enough damage. Timothy Schultz ended up being unalived at the age of 42. 42 years old. Let that be a reminder, folks. Anywhere, anytime, any age, Florida man can do some dumb shit. I don't care how fucked off the edge you are from whatever you're on. Don't charge a cop, let alone trying to go for their weapons. They're gonna tase you, but apparently, sometimes, just sometimes, it don't work. But this case, and one coming up in the list, they draw some questions in my mind. But we'll get there when the time comes. Because for now, we're going to get into a palate cleanser. Okay? Our palate cleanser, case number 4, Alexander Rojas. This man is a real-life man versus bear brawl. Now, I don't know what was going on with this bear that day. Maybe it woke up on the wrong side of the cave. Maybe it didn't have any honey left in its jar. Hell, maybe the 2.5 pounds of honey that I used for my mead was the last of it. Who knows? But apparently, while Mr. Rojas woke up and went about his daily chores and daily routine to get ready for work, etc., made his coffee and started his day, apparently this bear woke up and chose violence. I don't know how big the bear was, but it was all caught on camera. Ultimately, the surveillance camera ended up showing Mr. Rojas walking out of his house after having done everything with a great morning to start his day for work. Going out to go start his vehicle and go in for the lovely job that he had. This bear bum rushed the man and turned around and started fighting him. Now, Rojas, like a badass, turned around and punched and kicked at this bear's nose. Now, I don't know how fucking much balls you have to kick a bear in its nose, or what fucking agility you must have to roundhouse that fucker. But ultimately, Mr. Rojas, you champion. Congratulations. I don't know how you did it. Roundhouse regular, I don't know. But ultimately, congratulations. Not many have kicked a bear in the nose and managed to walk away from it. Okay?
You essentially kicked it in the face.
Now, he did turn around and end up getting to a neighbor's house. He was able to receive treatment for the fact of the bites and the scratches that he received. I'm surprised he only got bites and scratches. Okay? I'm surprised this man was not mauled, especially trying to turn around and black belt a bear from the woods that came out of nowhere. There is not enough honey in the world to pay off this thing to turn. No, I am not the 1v100 on a bear. Please and thank you. Mr. Rojas, you are a champion once again. But I don't exactly agree with the fact that you, Alexander, are using it to turn around and use the experience to warn the public about wildlife. I don't think that this was just a random occurrence, sir. Mr. Rojas, I believe that you upset this bear in some way, because this seems very targeted and very isolated in its occurrence, that it would bum rush you at your door. Bears don't usually do that.
Not unless they're sick.
What have you done, and or did you do, to entice this bear to come up and go into fisticuffs with you? Please, let us know in the description, let us know in the comments down below if you ever happen to see this video. I would love to know the entirety of the tale of how this bear got so mad at you that it bum rushed you at your front door. Okay? But imagining my day starting with coffee and a bear fight, I don't think I'd be here today. So we'll still give you credit for that one. Now, we've got the recently brand new case of Roman Rowicki. Love that last name. Really do. It reminds me of McWicky, the one that they turned around and used on Transformers. Sounds nice, don't it?
What the fuck?
But back on the 6th of September of this year, we had Mr. Rowicki turning around and having some woman, don't know who the woman is, but some woman, turning around and trying to find somebody that she had lined up to turn around and meet. Now, this woman came up Mr. Rowicki's driveway. Okay? Mr. Rowicki, upon seeing the driver and this woman walking up to the house, what does he decide to do? Does he decide to turn around and, I don't know, ask her what she's doing there? Perhaps? Or see if possibly they might be looking for somebody? Perhaps? Oh no. This 50-year-old man, for whatever reason, decides to turn around and actually full-on quarterback tackle this chick, leaving bruises on her. Okay? I don't know why he chose to do it. I don't agree with his choice to do it. Let me just make that clear.
Yeah.
But apparently this 50-year-old man, upon being actually interrogated by the police over it, or shall we say investigated, turned around and ended up stating that he believed that the woman was a sex worker and that he was protecting his wife.
I'm sorry, what?
Let me repeat that. He thought the woman was a sex worker and he was protecting his wife with him in the driveway body slamming her for coming up and looking for someone that a meeting had been set up with. I'm not buying it. And personally, I really don't think that the courts were buying it much either. Because when this lady went to go get in the car and get away, Mr. Rowicki, for whatever reason, and I don't know what would have driven this man to go this far, put 17 shots into their vehicle. 17 rounds into the vehicle as they were leaving to get off of the property. Okay? I could have seen a warning shot, but 17 into a vehicle, there's no reason for that. And apparently, the Florida judges over in Palm Bay agreed. because upon being released, he was ordered to give up his guns and avoid the victims. However, this case is still unfolding, and we don't know how this case will end. It is yet to be completely finished. Okay? So, we might turn around and possibly keep up on that one over time and see how that goes. But that in itself brings us to number 2. And reality's sake is, a few channels have already covered this case. Okay, they've done much better jobs than I can even attempt to do at this point. Alright, I'm not going to turn around and try to overhype myself, but I am going to give credit where credit's due. There's a lot of channels that are covering this case and doing a damn good job of it. Okay? I'm not going to call any of them out by name, but if you see them, click on them. You know, if you really want to know how this all breaks down, they do a better job. But number 2, Jamel J. Jones. Now, some of you might have already seen this case on YouTube, or on whatever service that you use to watch your videos. But Mr. Jones, over in Tallahassee, Florida, turned around in the middle of a children's birthday party, dressed as the mascot Chuck E. Cheese. The famous rat, or mouse, whatever you want to consider him. The famous rat was arrested, in character, in handcuffs, by the Tallahassee Police Department, because Jamel J. Jones, the man behind the costume, had been caught using a relative's credit card information. Inevitably enough, they turned around and arrested him for credit card fraud. They turned around and bonded him out for $1,000, and then ultimately, he lost his job with Chuck E. Cheese, and earned 3 felonies in the process. But, for what it's worth, I feel sorry for the kids and the parents that day. How do you explain to the child that Chucky just got taken out of the freaking restaurant in handcuffs, while the officers are telling him that he doesn't want to turn around and start a scene there? That tells me they were perfectly ready to take him down inside of that Chuck E. Cheese. And personally, I think that would have been a lot worse in the process, but hey. But thankfully, he walked out peacefully. He was taken into custody. Down the list. Alright.
Anyone getting visions advice?
Oh, I know. But ultimately, we've only got 1 case left out of the 5 cases that we had set. And like I said, one of these cases was going to cause me to have some questions with Florida, their police department, and their sheriff's department. This is that case. Alright, we've flown through the last few, and I will admit that. We've made them pretty quick to go through. But this one, we're going to have to take some time and really break it down. Alright. Now, remember our first case. The man was bitten by an alligator. Took an electric chair's worth of electricity through tasers, and still ended up getting shot. That was all on just one drug, methamphetamine. Now, you got James Anderson, on the other hand. He's at a music festival. It's late evening. It's midsummer. Ultimately, sun setting, this 37-year-old James Anderson enjoying a cocktail of such classics as PCP, LSD, ketamine, mushrooms, and ecstasy. The entire cocktail of them. Okay? Now, I just want you to comprehend that for a minute. That entire cocktail. And the amount of just sheer damn that comes with that. Okay?
Tripping balls!
Definitely tripping balls. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Now, ultimately, nobody knows what started the whole thing, okay? I'm gonna assume that it was the cocktail that he was on, you know? That's some powerful shit all working together all at the same time. And I don't think he was prepared to be on the planet that he got to. I think he got to the planet that he got to, realized he was surrounded by aliens and monsters, and went fucking psycho. Alright? But ultimately, he turned around and ended up basically more or less starting a rampage. It ended up with him pretty much biting the scalp off of an officer. That's where it started. That was the beginning of the rampage, was the officer tried to stop him, and he bit the scalp off of this.
What the hell?
How fucked up do you have to be for that to be working and happening? I mean, that is literally a zombie movie in and of itself. That is the beginning of every zombie movie that I have ever seen.
Why does it sound like
Is somebody gets their head bit off, or their scalp bit off, or down the list. Okay? That is the quintessential zombie movie.
Head, neck, and face.
Now, these officers at this point are dealing with the fact of what can only be described as a Resident Evil-esque situation. The zombie is on the loose, and there's nothing that they can do about it. Well, harkening back to the start of this whole journey, they pulled out their tasers. Once again, their tasers did nothing. Nothing. They did not faze this dude. I mean, just one of those alone is enough to make that not faze the dude. Okay? But with that whole cocktail, it did nothing. But ultimately, somehow, some way, they managed to get James Anderson. As much as he was living up to the reputation that Mr. Anderson has for starting some fucking shit with the Matrix and otherwise, they got this dude and managed to subdue him. Okay? They did not have to put rounds into him. They subdued him. They took him in. He got charged. He got 6 years in prison and another 10 years on probation. So 16 years total for a sentence. But ultimately, explain something to me. Because I kept these delineated between officers and deputies for a reason. When you're dealing with deputies, you're dealing with sheriffs. When you're dealing with officers, you're dealing with the police department. You have the county sheriff. The man's only on meth. It's the only drug he's on. They had to put him down with bullets. And I know that Grady himself obviously approved of the conduct that was had that day. Because over the research that was done, it showed nothing about anything having to do with these officers facing any form of penalty for the fact, these deputies facing any penalties for their action. Okay? I understand that they have split moments, 30 seconds at a time, 5 seconds at a time, 3 seconds at a time, where you have to make a split-second decision. I'm not going to try to call them out too hard for what they did. I understand that every single situation is different. But how is it that a man that is only on meth gets gunned down, but a man on PCP, LSD, ketamine, mushrooms, and ecstasy, all combined, how is it that the local police department managed to outmuscle all of the county sheriff's department, apparently? Because they outmuscled you deputies. They got their man. He was convicted. He did his time. And he's still alive to this day with that sentence, having faced the consequences for his actions. How in the hell for what it's worth, does James Anderson survive while Timothy Schultz and his family are forever changed? Explain that one. Make that make sense to me. Because I would say, if anything, Timothy Schultz was the lesser of the two cases. I'm sure that Mr. Anderson went for these officers' weapons. As a matter of fact, in my notes it does dictate that yes, he did go after these officers' weapons while biting the scalp off of him. Okay? That is so much worse than the alligator in that alligator-infested pond. That is on a whole different level. But these officers took down their suspect, while your deputies dropped yours.
Oh, word, my bad.
I don't know how else to put that, but it makes no sense to me. It seems like Anderson would have been the one put down, doesn't it? Picky. But hey, that's deputies versus officers. Hey King, welcome. How's it going? You on show or you on break? Break right now, right? Makes perfect sense. So, we just did 5 separate cases out of Florida. We left on a humdinger, and that's what I'm going to call it. It's a humdinger. Have to turn around and catch the episode to be able to turn around and catch that humdinger. Okay. But it'll give people a reason to watch. But we've done our 5 cases from Florida, and our unofficial 6th, okay, because number 6 was our mead. We made our must, we added our yeast. It's a nice little fermentation culture back down the list. We've done all the steps. Got to let it go till tomorrow around the same time. Add in our nutrients tomorrow after we drain off a little bit, because honestly, a day for the yeast to turn around and kick through the entire thing, and then we got to drain some of that off so we got some headroom, okay? But ultimately, it's been a damn good show. And I'm not sure if people have stuck around from the start to the end or not, but if you have, leave a either beer glass emoji of them clinking together, or a wine glass, or the champagne glasses clinking, or one of the 3.
Revelage.
Just something for something of wine, of a drink, you know. Leave that mark there. Let me know that you made it to the end. Let me know that you made it through the fermentation process. But ultimately, truth be told, these, especially something like fermentation, it's sort of cheap, okay? It's kind of the cheaper end of the spectrum, but honestly, it's not exactly cheap for the process. We broke down and we spent $55 for the base set that we have right now to do the fermentation, okay? In and of itself, we already have another $40+ worth of equipment that we need to get. That's not counting the fact of the measuring barometer. Barometer's the wrong word. I'll remember the word later and post it down below, but ultimately,
Isn't it some sort of gravity thing?
yeah, it's specific gravity density for the fact of the mead and or whatever liquor that you're doing. But ultimately, reality's sake is, yeah, we're already up to like $40 to $60 more in equipment. Oh, and we've got to get another actual fermentation vessel so that way we can transfer it and rack it here in 2 weeks, while having a lid to use in the long run to be able to cap it so that way we can put it up on the shelf. Because the company didn't send one with the kit. I think it was a missed opportunity, and I kind of still am going to knock them for the rest of the show over that 10 to 20 cent cap. 10 to 20 cents would have saved this rant. You could have bought me off of this rant for 20 cents, but no, you didn't send the cap for when it's all done. You left us to our own demise. So you're gonna get pinged for a 20-cent metal cap. Hey, Sky. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Have they seen your new pretty?
Oh, no, I know. Walmart, that's exactly how we did ours. We turned around and ended up getting the water there. We ended up turning around and getting the honey there. The honey ran us about $15. But the thing is, all of the extra equipment that we need is still going to run us like another $60. Altogether, we're going to be in for about 115 to 120 on the startup of this season. Because we don't just have the honey mead that we're working on, which, by the way, Sky King, give me 1 second.
Catching them off?
A little bit. Checking on it in the process.
Yeah.
Ooh. Whew. Okay. We don't just have
Oh yeah, she's been going.
the honey wine that we started, okay? Otherwise known colloquially as mead. We've also got the fact of the thought process that we could get our hands on some apple juice and some 100% grape juice, you know, as long as they don't have any of the quote-unquote preservatives that will stop the fact of the fermentation ultimately.
Oh my god, that's an idea.
And yeah, I'm using this as a chance to turn around and kind of give it a little bit of a shake and a stir and let it kind of mix in a little bit, get it down a little bit.
Sorry, brain.
And the bubbles are going and the fermentation is starting.
Yay! We need to get her back in the dark.
That's good. Alright, so we've got our mead going. We can do the same process for that mead for apple juice and grape juice, as long as they're fully 100% juice. We don't want preservatives in anything that we're going to ferment, because if you have preservatives, it will stall out your fermentation. It will make it turn around and go slower, if not turn around and make it fail. Okay? Oh, yeah, the tapestry that Ma got. She turned around and ended up getting it and ended up sending it and had it shipped over, and yeah, it makes an awesome background. It really does. It feels so much better to have something up there in the background that's nice that I don't have to turn around and put the green screen on for. Not only does it save my battery, but it also turns around and helps with the fact of the set making it feel more cohesive. But yeah, I definitely want to get my hands on like another carboy or two for another couple of brewing kits, well, fermentation kits. I want to get my hands on at least 2 of them, if not 3. One, because I'm going to need a jug at any point in time to be transferring these out of when they go to get racked into the next jug and cleaned up. Happy birthday, Sky! Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to Sky the Tiger. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to Sky the Tiger. Has the Void Dragon 8. You're welcome, Sky, you're welcome. Trust and believe, had I realized it was your birthday today, I would have said it immediately as you came in. But yeah, we've got more nutrients that need to be added tomorrow. We'll take off a portion of that mead, so that way we can turn around and end up actually having the room for it to do what it needs to do. A little bit overfilled today, my bad. We'll turn around and end up putting in the nutrients tomorrow. We'll get it degassed. We'll go through, we'll probably come back to it again on day 5. And then, oh, if I could give you a cake from here, I would. Honestly, if I could hand it to you through the fact of the phone, I would.
We don't have Charlie's invention.
Yeah, I know. We need
Wonkas.
Wonka Vision, people. I don't care who gets onto it. Somebody get on top of it. We need Wonka Vision for moments like this, where we have birthdays across the pond where we can't turn around and physically be there. We need Wonka Vision now.
Hello, Other Rich.
But yeah, technically so far, if I want to be really, really technical about it, we are technically on show number 3. All in one go. Because we had the first show, which was our fermentation of our mead. We had the second show, which ultimately became the fact of the mismatch. And now we've got our third show where we can truly go to space.
Yeah, Canna, please make sure they know that those are diamonds and not something else.
Oh, everybody knows that if it's in any of my pieces, they know it's a dabadoo.
Okay.
Because,
yeah, just say for YouTube, man. I mean,
no, I know. I can't not use the pipe that Ma sent today. It just suits all of this so well.
And
it really
passes
does.
really well. It passes nice too.
Yes, it does. But yeah, I'll start making a tunnel to the USA. Sky, we just got to figure out how to utilize the ones that are already there.
You need a separate blender. Shut up. I can handle the pressure. Sorry. Nerd over here.
Oh. Yay! It works. And for those that are wondering, I did a thing. Yes, the pipe itself is a 3-piece pipe. The bowl, the neck, and the tip are all separate pieces. But when you pull the tip, it's got the little adapter in it. Well, the little adapter, if you notice, it's not in there. I wanted a smoother hit. I really did. The adapter itself was causing problems.
It's meant for very specific lungs.
But ultimately, it is a very, very beautiful piece. And I am very, very thankful for it. I know that there's also a couple more that are coming in at one point or another, sooner or later. They will also be showing off. For those that were not here when it was brought out, there's the inside of the box that it came in. Very beautiful, beautiful orange.
And nice and
I
silky.
think it suits that red very well. But for the safety of the piece itself,
It really makes the colors pop.
I'm going to set that back in its box.
It makes those colors pop, and the silk makes it really, really nice to
Yeah,
keep
it
it
does.
unscratched.
And the thing is, the company even took the time to put the fact of the rainbow foil into the fact of their actual
Elm?
their actual emblem per se, because they put their emblem there, but it's high quality smoking pipe. That's all the label says. It doesn't actually say a company name. And I'm sort of disappointed in that, because if it had actually said a company name, I would have given their company a shout out for it, because honestly, it's a very, very enjoyable pipe.
Man, the details.
It's actually quite nice.
The details on the bowl piece, I wish they could see more.
Later, King, later. But, for what it's worth, everybody, we've been on for about 2 hours. Truth be told, I've still got editing to do today. I know that video that we recorded earlier, with the fact of the fermentation process, that got broken down into pieces, I'm sure. I've got some editing to do there. And truth is, we've still got a few things we got to get done here in general. But it has been very, very, Yes, the wind, yes, the wind tried to take out the girls the other night. It caused one of the girls to horseshoe. That one is now held up by a post. But, yeah, the wind tried to break one of our plants here at the studio. But for those that are curious, the 3 plants that are remaining out of the original 5 are doing really, really well. They're getting nice and heavy and hefty, minus the one that's a little bit scrawny. But hey, there's always a scrawny one in the batch somewhere. But, truth folks, we've ran recording of the video. We've ran live stream on Florida Man cases that I promised on the last show. And truth, we ran just over 2 hours. As far as the live stream goes, that's about right for the analytics. And where they're going to want me pretty much there in the analytics for the fact of YouTube and the length of videos. As far as the video goes, we'll see how long that goes. I'm figuring that that's probably an 18, 20, maybe a half hour. You know, somewhere in there. But, truth, we'll catch y'all in the next one, guys. It's hot. It's muggy. And there's still chores left to do. But we'll see y'all tomorrow on day 2 for the fermentation run of our joyful, joyful mead. Have a good one, everybody. Take care to you too, Sky. Hey, by the way, I do have one question actually before I go. When should I expect the box? My internal kid is still jumping over the box. You have my inner child like leaping for joy right now and just so excited over a box. I thought I would throw that out there. I really did. I couldn't hold it back. I'm sorry. But, yeah. It's been a good day today, y'all. It's been a good show. Yay! Yay! Box. We'll catch y'all next week. Well, actually, we'll catch y'all tomorrow, and then on day 5. And then, depending on the fermentation schedule, we'll probably go back to our weekly hits. Unless we have a special in between because of the mead. But, we'll catch you all in the next one, folks. Have a good one. I'm Canna. It's been Canna Creator Studios. It's been a journey for our mead. And a nice dive into 5 cases from Florida. Have a good one, y'all. Debate the answers of the Florida Man riddle in the comments below. And until next time, we'll see ya.